You have found yourself in Locked On Armageddon. No, Locked On Bulls. It's now came out per Sham Sharon here that the Chicago Bulls are more open to trading Zach LaVine than ever. Me and Pat are going to talk about that, what it could mean for the team, and does that mean that AK and Eversley have maybe picked a direction if that's already what they're talking about? We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
I wasn't expecting that.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls,
I was
member
not
of the Locked
expecting
On
that.
Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. That's Pat, the designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze, and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. Pat, let's get right into it. Sham Charania came out with a tweet that the Chicago Bulls are more open than ever to trade Zach LaVine. Apparently, there's like some classic going on where all 30 NBA GMs are going to be down there. Apparently, there's some thought that maybe some of those talks could start there. Yeah. And then it got even more interesting because about 5 minutes after that, Casey Johnson reposted it and actually said that per his sources, he's hearing the same thing. This is the one time that we've heard unified things on, not that just the Bulls are listening to offers, but they're actually open to moving Zach LaVine. Yeah. Pat, how you feeling, brother?
I mean, listen, after last night's game, are we surprised? Yeah, I mean, like we talked about how it looked like he was just kind of going through the motions. I think the interesting thing is now that we're hearing, now we've always heard, right, that the Bulls were taking calls on Zach LaVine. We've never heard Zach LaVine be open to being moved by something, right? He's always said, listen, this is my team. This is, I'm here. I'm going to be the number one. I'm in Chicago. Now we're hearing that both sides are open to it, and Casey Johnson basically cooperating in that report as well, right? Like that to me makes this feel a lot more real when both sides are more open to looking to actually make a trade. I think that makes things a little bit more literal. Now you got to kind of figure out what direction you're going to go. Who could you move him to? And I think, right, like we're going to have the conversation on the front office picking a direction, but it is not as easy of a trade as many people think. Zach LaVine's contract is a much better contract than what's out there today. But whatever team trades for Zach LaVine, me and you were just talking about it, right? They get a 15% trade kicker kicks in. So it basically goes from a $40 million a year player or a 43, roughly, whatever the average is, $1 million a year player to almost a $50 million per year player. You got to really be into Zach LaVine to be looking to make that kind of trade to your team, because it's not crazy capital, but that's a lot more capital than what the Bulls have him for right now.
And keep in mind, that would take Zach LaVine's final year of his contract from it's $48.9 million. You're talking about a 15% trade kicker in that. You're talking about close to $60 million player at that point in time.
Now, does he get that all at once, though? I don't know how the kicker works. Is that spread out over the term of the contract?
That means that's the contract itself. The remaining years of that contract, you have 15% on top of that.
Ugh, that's crazy. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to pay for Zach LaVine to be able to. It's still a much better contract than if you had to trade Jaylen Brown. But you got to really feel like you have a team that is in a position to actually make a move towards a playoff, towards a finals run within the next 3 years for me to be talking about trading for Zach LaVine at this point. This isn't we're just going to get rid of him to get rid of him and it's done deal.
And that's what a lot of fans are kind of taking this now is like, we're just trying to get Zach out of there. No, the Bulls are still going to look at the value that we've probably been reported, which was the next question. I'm going to come to you on that one. Do you think that this means they're more or less willing to come down off? We've always heard 2 first-round picks, a young player that's kind of the focus of the trade, and then just an older player to help match and fill the salaries because they do want a younger player who may not even be out of their rookie level extension. Do you think that value at all changes? Because one thing, and it's funny, I talked about this in the first video. I've dropped 3 videos now on Chicago Bulls.
A lot of content coming out.
The first video on Chicago Bulls Central, I talked about how if the Bulls did look to move somebody, they could be in a solid position to request assets because nobody's requested a trade per se. There's been no firm that, oh no, we just need to get rid of this player. While this rumor isn't that per se, do you think that it negatively impacts the trade value that Zach LaVine could have?
I don't think that it negatively impacts it because I think there will be a bidding for Zach. That sounds crazy to say, but I do think that teams will there'll be a lot of teams that want to get in on Zach LaVine. Like you see what he can be as a scorer. You see, right, if he's not your number one option, you feel a lot better about it. I think that you could see a lot of teams that feel like we're 1 to 2 pieces away. And guess what? Zach LaVine could be a very serious piece for that team. I think that there will still be kind of a bidding war to see, okay, who's going to get this guy. I mean, like, to me, you already know the Lakers are willing to trade the world to get Zach LaVine over there. Like, that's always been their thing. They're
willing to trade the world to get you to be their play-by-play announcer. They just want talent. It doesn't matter where. They just want talent.
Doesn't matter where they're gonna bring the talent in from.
We're bringing in talent. That's all that matters.
He's also half white, so it works out because it's kind of like Caruso, right? But like not all the way. But like, yeah, a little bit.
That's funny. So here's the teams that I think would be interesting. Let me know what you think about this. Philly's already came out and said they're not now in a rush. This just came out 5 minutes ago. Not in a rush to try to trade for Zach, but we know that there's some things there. We've talked about their assets already. The Lakers are always thirsty. The Miami Heat are looking for some type of talent to add to that team as well. The New York Knicks have been interested in Zach LaVine now almost for 4 years. Yeah. So those are kind of the teams that I'm looking at. Now, that doesn't mean that other teams can't be involved, because as we know, once a team is shopping a player, other teams do make calls on that to see what the value is going to be and if they have the right mix of assets. Do you look at those 4 teams as kind of the 4 front runners as well, or do you think somebody else could get involved?
I probably think those are your front runners right now. I would agree with that. The real question now is this a trade that also Zach LaVine wants to be a part of? Right? Like I don't know if AK seems like that kind of guy, right? Like he seems like he would come to Zach LaVine and say, listen, we're shopping you officially now. Where do you want to end up? What team would you want to be on? We'll try to get something worked out with them. And then, of course, we're going to talk to other teams and see what's best for it. But I think Zach wants to be in a big market, right? He doesn't want to be in another Minnesota situation. Like it's fun to think about, but he doesn't want to be in OKC.
Yeah.
Right. And again, whatever team you trade him to is going to be right. Like they've got him for what, another 4 years. So it is what it is. You'll be wherever you'll be. But like Zach LaVine would like to probably be in the New Yorks. He would like to be in the LAs, maybe Philly's still kind of big market, I guess. Like maybe Philly if they were in the
big market.
Yeah, Philly big market. So like I think that he would rather be there where he could continue to grow what the brand he's built already is versus going to one of the smaller market teams. But I do think the smaller market teams will make calls and maybe will be the best position for you to get the most capital. Yeah. It's just a question of what kind of move is AK going to make at the end of this. And I want this to be understood too, right? Like they're both open to it. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed to happen. Right? Like that is the part that a lot of people are just like,
because
he's gone. Like
exactly, because open to it may just mean, hey, this isn't working. And if we find a mutual situation for both of us, that the team can move on, you can move on, cool. But if they can find a scenario to make this work and sell Zach on that, like, and even KC said it, like, it's not like Zach is sitting there saying, no, get me out of here. It's just that, hey, this is a business. To what Zach has always said, this is a business.
Yeah.
But if something else changes with the mix, then I don't think at all that it's at the point now where Zach is just like, hey, I'm tired of y'all, get me up out of Chicago. I don't think that that's the case at all.
No, and I think that, but that's how it's being put out there, right? That he's gone. They're upset on both sides, and he's gone. Well, they're losing. Of course, they're upset on both sides, right? Like if you're winning basketball games, we're not sitting here talking about moving on from Zach LaVine. So because they're losing, both sides are open to a change being made here. Now, if all of a sudden a change is made at, say, a different position, a DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic, a Kobe White, somewhere in there, right? And you plug something in that starts working, maybe Zach LaVine doesn't want to, hey, listen, I knew it was coming, but also what she said. But I mean, at the end of the day, like it's not a foregone conclusion that he's out of here. And I feel like that's where so many people have taken it based on this. And it still depends on, again, a 15% trade kicker is nothing to scoff at. That's a lot of freaking money he's getting added more.
One thing that I don't know with this, the trade kicker they won't have to match that version of the salary because technically it only kicks in after the trade, right? So
Yeah.
they wouldn't have to. Okay.
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe that all of the trades that would go through would be based on the salary he had,
and then once
not
it's
the
finalized,
salary you're going to have to pay him. But I'm just saying that like any team that gets him has to realize that he goes from making 40 million to basically 45 million this year, and by the end of it, he's over 50, over 50 million.
Yeah, well over 50 million.
I mean, that's a big thing to trade for, especially with the new CBA and the percentages that come into play.
Yeah, so you got to be sure that you're adding Zach LaVine to a team that you feel is going to be putting you in a place to contend, because if not, you can't James Harden this situation, because he is at least not a free agent at the end of this year like James Harden, right?
So, I mean, listen, that's got to be the worst trade I've seen in history.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I was trying to think of a worse trade that like completely destroyed a team. I don't think I've ever seen one.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at some point.
It's crazy.
Next up, we're going to be talking about what this, who else could be on the move if they are shopping Zach LaVine. Who else could that mean that they are shopping and looking at? Before we get into that, though, I want to talk to you guys about one of our sponsors, and that is eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're preparing for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit your roster. So let's see who's Josh picked out for us this week's eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. So it looks like he has on here Kyle Lowry, surprisingly. Lowry has had middle school usage to begin the season, but without Tyler Hero, he has to step up, and he has. He's a strong ad for now. He also looks at Keontae George and says the Jazz new starting point guard, and he's tallied 20 assists in the first 2 starts. It may be rocky, but he's worth grabbing. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Sports is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows the championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED lights, rack roof track, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. The eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items and exclusions do apply.
You good? Got a little bit of
good.
a stroke during that read. That got tough.
Listen, that was a very wordy read there, brother. And then they put this whole thing in the middle there that has nothing to do with it. It's like, what are we doing here? Anyway, that's a little inside basketball for you guys. Pat, if the Bulls have gotten to this point of being more open to trading Zach LaVine, what do you think this means for anybody else on the roster?
I think this is a guarantee to me, based on the contract situation, that DeMar DeRozan is gone. And I'd be surprised. I'm not gonna lie. I'd be surprised if they moved on from Vooch or Caruso. Like Caruso is a maybe if you go full rebuild. If you go Caruso, move on from Vooch, right? But like I think that AK is very big on keeping veterans on a team that you're trying to build young players with. I can guarantee y'all this, Bulls fans. We're not heading toward a full rebuild. He is not going to blow it up. We can sit here and talk about trading Zach, you trade DeMar, but I look at the past that AK comes from, and none of it is about blowing it up.
Yeah.
None of it is about getting rid of all the talent on your team and starting at the bottom. Like he wants to still have a competitive basketball team. He wants to be able to go out there. And now what I will say is this. Now you're going to see what the player development staff that you've put in place is really developing, because guess what? Your young players are going to have to play. Patrick Williams is going to have to shoot the basketball more than 15 times a game. What are you going to do with that? Kobe White, you're shooting the ball more than 15 times a game. Ayo Dosunmu, right? Like, how are you going to manage the Ayo Dosunmu? Is he back in the starting lineup and Kobe as the 2? Or like, yeah, I mean, like that's really what this could be. I don't think that they blow this thing all the way up, though. Like, I know a lot of Bulls fans are on board for a full-scale rebuild, but I don't think that our GM ever will be. And you look at the Denver Nuggets as the case for it. I mean, haven't had a sub 30 win season since 2003, and for the most time, bro, like they don't blow it up. they do not blow up their teams. They just be like, hey, we're just going to have solid veterans and run them out there as much as possible and see how much we can win.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to it, like you said, I don't think now I would say this, if Zach is traded before DeMar, I think that set of assets would determine if we're going full rebuild or if we're going retooling, because it really depends that. So if Zach is moved first, I think that dictates that. If DeMar is moved first, it really could still go either way. It still depends on what we get back for assets. But at the end of the day, I think this, much like you, I think if Zach's moved, I don't see the point of holding on to DeMar to the end of the season, unless you just want to do him a solid and let him pick his new destination. Vooch, you're not in any rush. You just got him to a new 3-year deal. And Alex Caruso is the one that, as we've been saying, if the playoffs anymore, go get you your title, young fella.
Yeah.
That's all I can say on that.
And I don't foresee that. And here's the thing, right? AK talked about coming into the season, changing the identity of this team, and the identity of this team being what? A tougher team, a more gritty team. That's why he goes out and gets Torrey Craig. That's why he goes out and adds Javon Carter. These are guys that have a tough defensive mindset, that are a much more gritty style of play. You already have Alex Caruso on this team. I'm going to be real with you. Seems like Vooch bought in a little bit. Like in the beginning of this season, the guy that I've seen who has always done.
Well, I mean, he also was fed up coming in the dang media day. He's already at the point where he's like, I'm not hearing none of this no more.
Right. He showed up to training camp pissed off.
Yeah.
He's been pissed off for 3 months, bro.
And I see people like in the comment, like Black Prophet saying it's 10 days in. Nobody's saying that the trade is imminent, but it does mean that they could start setting up to make that move.
Yeah. And I think that the thing is, right, you have to ask yourself, what kind of team do you really want to have? What mindset do you really want to have around your team? And guess what? A team that has Alex Caruso on it has a more of a gritty mindset, especially the second you trade away Zach and DeMar. You know that the voice in that locker room is Alex Caruso and Nikola Vucevic, and they're both. Vooch is always cussing somebody out. Like I don't know who he cussed out last.
Hey, I was just about to say, but have you noticed how much more savvy Vooch has got with it? He makes sure his back is completely turned.
Oh yeah,
where he's facing the bench, and Vooch be letting the refs have it. He'll do his little thing for a moment. He'll do this, and then he'll look towards the bench, and I don't know what he's saying, but Vooch be cussing out the referee.
I swear, I thought he was cussing out Billy Donovan the last game for a second, and then I was like, oh wait, I think he's yelling at the ref, but like to Billy. Like I think that's all that's happening right now. Because Billy was like looking through him, like, yeah, I know, I get it. All right, hey, let's go play. So it's just, listen, you're in a bad situation as an organization right now, because your team's not winning basketball games, But we have talked about the bright spots of this team being what? The defensive intensity, the grit and the fight that they've had, their ability to try and fight back into some of these games. Like, those are the things that I think you want your team to have that identity with. You just got to figure out who's going to be the next guy that's going to step up and make those plays. I don't know if it's P. Will. Probably not. I'm not going to sit here and tell y'all that it is. Hopefully he proves me wrong. I don't think it's Kobe White. I think Kobe White's much better.
Yeah, and
maybe if he takes more shots, right, he could be a 24 to 25 point per game guy. But like
Kobe without two ball dominant players is easily at 25 points per game.
Probably, yeah. I mean, but like, is it
effective 25 points?
Exactly, right? Like, does that make you feel like, oh snap, we got our next guy? Like, no, it's Kobe White scoring 25, and we probably still lose by 11. Yeah, I mean, like, so it's just you want to start to figure out who's that next guy that's gonna be the guy. But I think that if you build your identity based on the ideals that Alex Caruso has, you're fine with that. So I see them moving on from really just two pieces, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're holding on to Vooch and AC.
And I want to be clear on this. I want everybody, because it seems like the expectations, not just from our chat, but in general, fully expect, though, for nothing to happen. I just want everybody to be prepared, because I know everybody's getting excited. Please be prepared for none of this to happen. I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Please be prepared for that.
Y'all hear all this logic we're dropping today on the show?
Yeah.
None of it probably is going to happen. We're running it back. We're doing the same things that we did last season. Nothing's changing. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if AK is there right now, just like, put the report out that we're trading.
Exactly.
And then we won't.
And then 3 months from now, the report's going to be Lonzo Ball got on a basketball court and took 5 steps. He's coming back. We're running it back.
Please, no more Lonzo news. I can't take it. My heart can't take it.
Bro, I'm so glad that they started off the season by flat out saying he's not coming back this season because the quarterly Lonzo Ball updates, I'm good on, bro. I don't want no more,
bro. I'm so done with the Lonzo Ball updates where it's just like, hey, Lonzo bent his leg today. Okay, bro. All right. Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't need it. Thank you, though. Hey, listen, before we get into the final topic, telling you guys about the possibility of the front office picking the direction, I do have to tell you guys about Ibotta because I'm going to be real with you. This is the greatest ad that we probably read on here. How does a free Thanksgiving sound?
You would say that that's the best one.
You said what?
You would say that this is the best one. Two
hey,
fat
bro,
people talking about food. Listen, I'm happy.
Free food? Come on now, bro. You already know. Angles is working with the camera. How does a free Thanksgiving sound? This year, Ibotta is here to give you cash back and help make sure your Thanksgiving table is complete because who wants turkey without gravy? That's right. Starting this November 1st, for the 4th year in a row, Ibotta is giving 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast. Just add the offers in the app to redeem for everything you need to make your Thanksgiving feast complete. All you have to do is shop at your favorite retailers and upload your receipts. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items from produce, personal care to pantry goods. So make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. Other apps will give you points. Nobody wants the points. That doesn't amount to much. With Ibotta, you get real cash back, cash money, baby, that you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. You also can earn cash back on hundreds of online brands and retailers too when you start with Ibotta, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Download the Ibotta app and use the code LOCKED to get 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving dinner starting November 1st. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use the code LOCKED. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use the code LOCKED. All right, let's do it.
Let's go. What? Music didn't want to start. I don't know what's going on here, man.
Hey, man, even the music is thrown off by the
music's
right
pump faking like DeMar DeRozan. It's affecting the music. What's happening here, bro? Like, come on, man.
And it's still coming up short.
It's crazy. With that said, Pat, now that these things have come out, right, and we've been very clear that there's still nothing may happen. But do you think this kind of aligns more with the fact that the front office is finally starting to pick a direction for where they want to take the next version of this team?
If they do, then yeah. I mean, and I think always, right, AK has talked about wanting to build through his young players, wanting your young players to be the next step up. But you've also put your young players in a position where they almost can't, right? Yeah. Listen, I know that everybody all of a sudden is turned on Torrey Craig. What you need to understand is when you're the 4th man in the lineup, you're the man that kind of just does whatever needs to get done. He still put up 8 and 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the 4th guy in the lineup isn't going to be the person
the 5th guy.
I mean, kind of more. Well, yeah, because Kobe White is in the lineup now. Last year, he would have been more of the 4th guy, but in this lineup, right, definitely is the 5th guy in that lineup. And you look at Kobe White's improvement this season and say, okay, maybe that's a start there. If we move on from Zach and DeMar, what do you do with this lineup? I would assume you're probably going. As crazy as it's that, you're probably going Kobe, Io, P. Will, Torrey Craig, Vooch, right? Like that's your young lineup moving forward. Who else is
who did you just say was the young lineup?
Kobe, Io, P. Will, Torrey Craig, and Vooch. It's probably a starting lineup, right? Like I would think you still want AC coming off of the bench.
I could see them starting Javon Carter and moving Kobe to the 2.
Do you want to move them around again, though?
I'm just saying that because either way, even if you put Io in the lineup, Kobe White's still taking more shots than Io DeSumo. So I think at that point, Kobe becomes one of your main scorers, and they may want to take some of that ball handling duties off of him. I'm not saying it's guaranteed. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that could be another route that they do go. Mix of veterans and young players in the starting lineup, because then at that point, you're giving Kobe, Patrick Williams more keys, right? At the 2 and the 3. You have a solid veteran point guard and Javon Carter, who's still only 27 years old. Yeah. And then you got Torrey Craig and Nikola Vucevic out there. So could be.
I mean, it's interesting. Like there's either way, right? You're going with a younger lineup in there. That is picking a direction.
Yeah,
and I think the
true.
direction that they're picking is the direction they've wanted to go in the entire time, but they wanted to get to a point of being a competitive team.
And I think
And
people go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
well, and now you're back to being competitive. That's all I was gonna say.
Well, I think also the thing that I kind of wanted to bring a perspective on, I don't really think that this is a big change of direction as far as removing pieces from this team, but I do think it kind of also realigns you to what I think the original plan was anyway. I truly think that the plan was we're going to bring DeMar DeRozan in here, and we're going to hope one of these young guys step up to where we ain't got to pay DeMar DeRozan after this contract is over. And so you haven't had the success that you wanted to in that time, but I think you're still looking at it and saying the time for veterans has come to an end. Now we're about to, hey, P. Will, if it's because you haven't gotten the opportunities, bam, here's 18 shots a game for you. We're going to run it for you regardless if you pass it or not. If you pass it, the ball's coming right back to you. Kobe White, you've grown as a passer, you've grown as a defender, you've grown as making impacts other than scoring. Boom, here goes 18 to 19 shots a game for you. Let's figure it out if you can be a more consistent player. So I think it kind of realigns with what they hoped they were getting to. They just hoped that they were going to get to it in a different way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's when you look at it like this, your goal was to see that one of these guys ascend, like you said.
Yeah.
And it felt like they all just deferred to what was already here.
Yeah.
Like it's not even just P. Will, right? Like P. Will is the one we focus on because he's the 4th overall pick and all of that, right? But like it really feels like Kobe White deferred to Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. And listen, rightfully so. Those are the guys who were the number ones on your team, the leaders on your team who were taking all the shots. You defer to them, you shoot, you get them the ball. That's what you had right there. Now you don't have that option. Now you got to play.
Yeah.
You got to make plays or you're going to get beat by 50 every night. Now, they may just get beat by 50 every night.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah, I mean, like that could be the ugly scenario too. But I think what it also does for you is it forces you to play some of the young guys who otherwise, like Marko Simonovic never got any tick here, and now he's back overseas. It feels like that's kind of what Dalen Terry's life is about to be, although he looks like he's stepping on Legos every time he drives. And
well, I mean, he did actually. He's having back spasms now. Maybe that was what's going on.
He really stepped on a Lego. That's tough. Yeah. But it feels like we're also starting to see that with Julian Phillips. Like we haven't seen a single minute.
How are we seeing anything with Julian Phillips? We haven't seen him. We don't even know. I don't even know what Julian Phillips looks like anymore. For all I know, he cut his hair. I don't even know. He could have dreads. I have no idea. We wouldn't know. We don't see him.
He's the same as every generic 2K player they put out there with a fro. Yeah, I mean, it's just like,
you know what's crazy though is that Julian Phillips actually has a face scan currently in 2K, and there's still 1st round picks that don't. It's like, why did Julian get it?
I feel like Julian put his own in there though.
He hacked the system. He put it.
I mean, he probably just put it in there and then like it was like, can I just send this to y'all? Like I did it. Like, it's in my basement.
I ain't doing. I'm not playing basketball, so I just went ahead and took care of it.
I just did my own face scan. Don't worry about it. But no, like we're heading toward an era where you're gonna be forced to see very young players that you have high hopes for getting to get time on the court. And I hope that is the era that we stick in, because that's how you continue to build good teams, young players developing. The reason that we're here right now is because none of our young players, for the most part, have developed.
Now, let me ask you this question, Pat, and this is probably the most important question in all of this before we get up out of here. And I know sometimes, no, I'm not even going goofy, dead serious. Do you trust AK and Eversley to draft well through a rebuild, if that is the route that we go?
It hasn't happened here.
Mm-hmm.
But what AK drafted in Denver has, for the most part, worked out.
Yes. Question on that, though.
Michael Carter Williams.
Wow, that definitely.
That hurt a little bit.
Michael
Porter Jr., Jokic, Jamal Murray, I think, is under him as well.
And was AK the GM when we did the McDermott trade as well?
AK might have been the GM, I believe, when we did the McDermott trade.
Okay.
He might have been the assistant GM there. Either way, he was a part of the conversation. But yeah, like I assume that he knows what he's looking for. He just hasn't been able to find it.
I mean, this is the thing that
you've missed on quite a few good players while you're looking for that specific thing, though.
Definitely missed on a few, right? So, I mean, I guess we'll see, man. Like ultimately, I look at it and I say this is that if this is the route that you go, you have no more excuse for draft. Your drafting has to be on point. You have to pick you have to pick players because you're probably going to have lottery picks, and that also, if they do this may secure the fact that we won't give up our pick to the Spurs next season in a draft that's even deeper. This move may not be for this draft. It may be for next year's draft because this draft is not that deep. But if the Bulls are bad enough to keep their own draft pick next year, that's the draft that you're looking at as quite a bit of impact players in the top 5 of that draft.
Is that top 15 protected?
It's top 10 protected, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think he'll tear it down for us to be that bad.
You don't think he'll tear it down enough for us to be that bad? That's fair. I mean, listen, I'm not saying that
like that.
It's top 10 protected.
That is the part that sucks about it. Like, I really don't believe he's going to move on from AC and Vooch. Now watch, he'll hold on to DeMar and trade only AC and Vooch, and that'll be like how this all goes down. But like, I don't know, man. It's listen, there seems like there's a new era coming to Chicago, and Bulls fans are losing their goddamn minds because some of these trades that have come through have been off the wall. Like I seen somebody they said we should trade Zach LaVine for Josh Giddey. Why the heck would OKC want to give us Josh Giddey?
Bro, the Cam Thomas, the Josh Giddey, I seen Zion Williamson in this chat. Y'all got to stop. Lay off the weed. Stop it.
Oh, this is worse than weed, dog. Weed ain't gonna send you down that
this
path,
is locked on friendly. Locked on friendly.
You can say pills on here, right? We got the pills.
Okay, you can say pills. You can say pills.
That's a half a Fenty. Hey man, appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago.
You can follow me at CEO Haize. As always, want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls. We are free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube and the Odyssey app. Oh, make sure you guys also go check on Locked On Sports 24/7. You find us streaming over there as well as every other Locked On show. But for Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. This has been Locked On Bulls. And guess what? We not getting traded. We still here. Peace, y'all.
Peace. We might get traded.
We may get traded.
We might get traded.